the accountability. It makes it harder to identify and recognize where things are working out really well and where goals are being met, as well as where they are not being met or where there are problems. So I would like to hear a little bit more about why individual department goals would make it feel like it's not one whole division, or why division roles makes it feel less like a full department.
Sure. Yeah, so I think that, one of the things that we've tried to do is we talk about our goals in individual departments internally all the time. So I meet with my departments on a weekly basis, and we meet as a division every Wednesday. So, but Director Hulk, Director Thompson, Director Gould, and then Mr. Zahn, we all meet every Monday, and we talk about what's going on within our areas. And then that's where we really a goal set. So when you ask about accountability, I feel like that's, as the DPW director, that's my job, is to make sure that I am holding accountable to the things that you are presenting through the mayor's office and through myself personally, what you want to see out there for the residents. I feel like that's what you hired me to do, and that's what my job should be, is to make sure that the things that you want to see and the things that our residents are asking for are being met. So it could be as simple as efficiencies in getting projects done. It could be, communication with projects, and those are some of the goals that maybe we would have identified in here, but it's really not on the budget side, it's on an operations side. So when I hear those, that's what we talk about. And then we talk about how are we going to get better? How are we going to do things a little bit differently? What kind of goals can we set to, be better at communicating, or be better at efficiencies, or be better at getting the word out to the public, or be better at responding back to questions that you might have, or be better at responding back to the mayor's office. So we talk about those, and I feel like that's my job as the department head to do that. And then here we really should be talking about very high level goals that are going to affect the whole division. So it's not that it's difficult, I think we just do it at a more regular basis. And I hope that answers your question. The accountability I feel falls within what I should be doing as the department lead in accounting, holding the assistant directors and then the department, letting them hold their department heads responsible as needed.
Yeah, it's not about accountability in terms of are people checking in on time, or they said they would finish on a Thursday, but it's Friday and it's still not done. It's not that kind. Okay. It's the accountable for the millions of dollars, really, that is being invested in this department, in the multiple departments, and understanding why they have different staffing needs, or they have different equipment needs, and there's different capital needs, and it was a way to get more transparency in the budget. And so getting goals as part of this budgeting process is something that has helped this process and avoided a lot of misunderstanding, lack of clarity, back and forth during these meetings, because there's a record, there's a level of preparation, there's a conversation, and there's this shared understanding. I don't know that I won't speak for anybody else, but when I look and see that, it was really good to see these FY26 goals, which were also broad and germane to that particular function. And now seeing these very broad FY27 goals leaves me with lots and lots of questions. Okay.
I appreciate your view. And again, it's something we'll take back as feedback as we look at it. I don't know, I appreciate your point of view. I just don't know how to rectify that for this. This is the way it was presented. This is the way we presented it here. So I don't know if there are specific questions we certainly can answer. But I understand what you're saying. I'm taking that as feedback that we can look at for as we present, or if there are specific questions we can answer. But I certainly understand your viewpoint. I appreciate it very much.
So that was my response to your first. Do we want to go into departments now or something?
Did you have anything else on generally, Councilor Sperry?
Yeah. So then, I don't know what department this falls into, but one of the major one of the questions that come up often are how people are spending their time, and do we have enough staffing to reach those things, and are we investing enough so that people have the kind of person power they need in order for the snow removal, right, there's limited resources.
Yes.
And so one of the things that you did is you factored out, and I think the calculation was $18,000, and that it's about $18,000 per night of a really bad snowstorm that requires multiple passes and overtime and snow cleanup and shoveling and all of that. That was just kind of a broad figure. And that's really helpful because I think being able to quantify in those terms really helps residents understand the cost of just a snowstorm and why it might take 7 hours because there's already been 2 passes at a busier street or whatever the situation is. And so that is really powerful information. And my hope, and what I had planned to talk about, was the metrics involved in that and how that can be a further layer in goal setting. Now, if you're doing this somewhere else and you're doing this every week in your Monday meetings, that's terrific, that's fine. But those are the kinds of metrics that really tie into the numbers. And you can't really get to those metrics until you're setting up those goals and figuring out, did we get it, did we not, how come, do we have not enough people, do we have not enough tools, is there not enough time in the year? So that was one area. And then in addition to that is the idea of your departments are responsible every time anything happens in town, right?
Correct.
Anything. So your first responders, your last responders, your cleanup, your setup, your prep, your traffic, your everything.
Right.
And is there a way to figure out what those costs are? And this kind of relates back to when outside events are coming into, or inside events, when there are events and traffic needs to be diverted, fields need to be set up. I know that there's been a move in Town Hall for groups who are going to hold their events here or there to actually for people to pay a fee to use the room, to whatever that is. And it's very modest. It's just really to cover the costs of keeping a room open. But then when there's events, multiple day events, road races, 5Ks, Braintree Day, parades, all of these things, that's also your department that is covering all of those things. So how do we factor those costs in and make sure that those are being responsibly tracked, billed, offset, balanced, bartered?
Right. Wonderful question. I just want to go back to one thing that you said in regards to a night of snow removal. I just want to make sure the conversation, I believe, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong, we were talking about clearing sidewalks and when we brought in outside contractors. So
Yes.
just want to make sure that is clear. That what we were, I believe our conversation there was that we were talking about how quickly could we get sidewalks cleared on certain roads, and then what does that cost? And we figured it between 17 and 19, so it's around $18,000 a night when you bring in equipment from the outside, when you bring in trucks to haul it away, and when we might have to bring in some outside equipment, and that's how we clear parking lots like the town hall parking lot or the library parking lot. Those were, so when we talk about that and we look at the cost, that's something that Ben and I have to kind of weigh is where do you want that budget to fall out at? How far over budget are we going to be, and how quickly can we clear things? So I just wanted, you're absolutely correct. That is a number that I gave you. I just want to make sure we talk about it in that context, that we know what that number is, and then how, that's why we talk about the balance of we can clean up things really, really quickly. It just costs a lot of money. So, because we don't have enough of our own staff to do that. And our own equipment. When we bring in large 18-wheel dump trucks, but I think some of the things that, as you talk about, how do we, where was our planning for that? I spoke about it during the snow season, but some of the things that Ben had thought about pre-season was making sure we had a place to put snow if we got it. Nobody knew we were going to get 2 storms back to back of 20 plus inches or one of 30 inches, but we had our own the compost site, the leaf compost site. Ben had the forethought to clean that out in the fall. So we had a company come in, we spent a little bit of money, they haul away a lot of our compost and a lot of leaves, right? And it makes a big area for us. So we were not hauling snow to other places. We didn't have to have other communities take our snow. We didn't have to pay to truck it to other places. So we were able to keep it in town. That saves a lot of money in the fees. So we do try and think ahead of what could happen. We're not always right, and we don't always think ahead enough. But I think that that was something that was just to have a place, our own snow farm, so to speak. A lot of communities didn't have that and weren't able to do that. So those are the things when you talk about, but those are the things we talk about. Hey, do we spend the money on removing leaves in the fall? And you think about what that costs and you go, I don't know, we probably should. Okay, there's money in the budget. So we do have those kind of conversations all year long as to how do we prepare for things. So I give Ben a lot of credit for that. The metrics is very interesting. I think I just took a couple of notes here on that. The events are difficult because that's a question that does go across a couple of our departments. That could involve our facilities department. It could involve our recreation department. It's a question we ask, and it's a question that I ask the team, do we really want to be in the rental business, right? Because we're not really landlords. So should we be in the rental business? It does take resources away from other things. It takes our facilities resources and custodial staff away if they are monitoring a building for a rental. And then, to your point, what is the tolerance for charging for some of these? We try and recover the cost of the people that are working these events. When we do them, I know that, Braintree Day is one of those events that we do have in the budget. We try and recover the overtime cost of doing that. But in other situations and circumstances where we have some of these events, we are just recovering cost. And is that what we should be doing? So that's a question that the Recreation Department and the Facilities Department struggles with. I think that they do a good job of trying to be a community that is welcoming to groups, right? Because that's part of it. But also not going into debt to support outside groups as well. So we do have those conversations. It's a very delicate balance, and I don't think we have it balanced right yet. And it's one of the things that as we talk about working on efficiencies and priorities, it could be as simple as having a better scheduler. We need a better scheduler for our facilities. We don't have. We're looking at programs that can do that for us. It's very manual now. We need better rates. Oh, sorry.
No, and if I may add, I know the last several years we've really been trying. A lot of it's driven through the permitting process. You have to have a special permit to have a road race and things like that. So through the mayor's office, and making sure we are covering any of those above and beyond costs. If it's a Saturday and they need staff for cones, we're charging for it, or at least trying to recoup what we can, extra trash barrels, things like that. So it's been a lot better the last couple of years, like Director Jock said, a scheduler trying to get it all in one spot so nothing slips through the cracks, but we've been doing a lot better the last couple of years at really reclaiming or capturing a lot of that stuff.
Excellent. So when you say that that like, let's say Braintree Day is in the budget, that means that it's in our budget that we're paying for. That doesn't mean it's coming in as revenue, right? That's our expense.
There's a line item. There's a line item in our budget for.
Right, but there isn't a corresponding revenue item for that.
Not
right?
that I'm, no.
So I think that's the other thing that's really important too. I don't know what that costs. It could be a drop in the bucket. It could be huge. I have no idea. But when we're balancing Braintree Day versus sidewalks, that's where, we're down to very, very tight budgets still,
yes.
And we are going to be, and I think that is something that also needs to be addressed in the budget.
Yeah.
Thank you. I also, actually, I do want to finish, and I'll turn it over, but I do also want to say that it has been an absolute pleasure working with you, getting information and feedback, seeing your team come out into the community, walk the streets. Your department did a survey with folks about all of a sudden they're seeing changes, and they were given an opportunity, and that builds so much community and support for what is a difficult job that people expect to always be done. And sometimes it's just hard to do that. And I appreciate your patience and your even-handedness and that spirit that you're bringing with you to everything that you do. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It's very kind. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Maglio, and I will echo those sentiments, Director Jacques. You've been a huge asset to the community and your entire team. So thank you for all your service to Braintree. If it's okay with other committee members, I just wanted to follow up on something that Councilor Maglio brought up, and that is staffing.
Yes.
I don't want to lose sight, and I know this is a little bit broader, and I'm sorry, assistant directors, for bringing you up here early, but I think it's really important. We talked a little bit about it last night with the planning department that was here, and as we look forward with the incredible opportunity that Braintree is on the cusp of, with the number of new residents we're about to welcome, the number of new businesses that we expect to open, I'm very, very concerned that we are not going to be staffed up sufficiently and quick enough in some of these key areas, like Councilor Maglio has mentioned, and yours is one of them. So could you please provide us with your general assessment of your staffing capacity as it currently is, and then I guess part B would be, if it's not enough now, or maybe it is, let us know, what does the next 2-3 years look like as these projects start to materialize?
Sure. Thank you for the question. So we talked a little bit about right people, right place, right time, and that's one of the things we need to determine. Do we have the right people? Because I don't believe that we necessarily do in all areas, that we are light in areas of people doing the actual work. So I think we're light in our labor force and maybe heavy in some of other areas, and that's what we're trying to balance now. That's what I'm trying to balance. I also, I've talked a lot about, and we'll continue to talk about the next best hire. What is our next best hire in Braintree? And because we have open position doesn't mean that that's a position we should fill. So we are working very hard on what is our next best hire in the DPW, and that could be something that's not an open position as we sit here tonight and talk about. And what do I mean by that is it could be I think a lot about a project manager or somebody to help us with our bidding, or somebody that could help us in some of those functions that we don't have currently on staff. So we talk a lot about next best hire. So that's a very high level. At the question that you're asking is, do I think that we are staffed enough to take care of what we need? No, I don't. And that won't be a surprise to anybody listening, or I've said this. I don't think we have the right people in the right place. And I think that we need to look at where are our folks doing the work, and how do we better support those positions. So that is our truck drivers and our laborers and our boots on the ground, so to speak. And how do we better support that? So I know Director Hulk will be able to talk more specifically about the openings we have. I know we have 3 or 4 openings in the DPW. I know we have 5 in the water department right now. I know that we have 1 or 2 in the engineering department, at least 1 in the engineering department. I know we have, I heard, and when facilities comes up, they'll correct me if I have this wrong, but I think we're finally staffed in our custodial for the first time in I don't know how many years that we don't have an opening there, but they'll correct me if I have that wrong. But I think Ben could talk more about the positions we have open, but If we got those positions filled, would we have enough positions? No, I think, we talked a little bit about, and we see the request, we see the see-click fix about, hey, this hasn't been done yet, or this, the temporary speed bumps haven't been put out, or hey, this road still has some repair that's needed. And right now, we're not able to get to all of those requests as quickly as we would like, because we don't have the crews to send out to do that. So, please, Ben, elaborate or...
Yeah, no, I mean, you definitely hit it on the head, and I mean, everybody would always love to have more help and more staff. Fully staffed would be in a much better situation. We've been trying. The applicants aren't coming in, which is neither here nor there. Again, always nice to have extra staff, but it just leads us to a real prioritization of, is this life and safety, and tackling those things as opposed to some pretty things, beautification, mulch, items like that, Grass gets cut a couple less times, it gets a little bit longer in front of 85 Quincy Ave or Town Hall, as opposed to leaving a, sinkhole open in the edge of the road. So it just, we manage, we do what we can, and the staff that we have are hardworking, dedicated, loyal, and they're putting in the effort. And again, it's just, like Director Jock said, and we know a lot of this stuff is out here, and we'd get to it tomorrow across the board if we could, and it just really does come down to a daily, leveling out of priorities and what's the biggest emergency and going in that route.
I would say that, we're also looking at technology to help us. So the Recreation Department does have a robot that paints fields now. So, that was a purchase that they were able to make last year. We just got it in and up and running, but Brendan will elaborate, I'm sure. But, we're doing fields in a small amount of time. We can do, painting fields is not easy by the time you get the layout done and then you actually get the paint down. Now we're able to do fields in an hour as opposed to a day, so to speak. So so we are looking at that. I know when we talk, I know we're not talking golf tonight, but we have looked at even robotic mowers and not to replace people, but to free up people to do other things. So the paint machine that I spoke about, it's not to replace a person. It's to allow that person, instead of walking around behind a machine to paint a field, they can be weed whacking. They can be picking up trash. They can be looking at other things at that field while the machine does its work by itself. So it's not that we are of complacent and saying, well, this is just what we have. We're just trying to get to where we can be better at what we do, so to speak, right? And I think that's where we're leading in trying to say, okay, what's out there? What's different? What can we try? And we're going to try some things and probably stumble, but we're going to try some things and be very successful. So, but we're not just here saying, we need more financial support. We're trying to say, how do we do it better? How do we do it differently? What can be done differently? How do we think about things differently than we have in the past? And that is just something that we'll always challenge ourselves to do. We have a great team in place to do that. So,
thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Other questions? Councilor Sterling, go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to piggyback on your staffing question, and you mentioned, just thank you guys for coming tonight. Thank you for all the hard work you and your staff does and your team. So with the staffing question, you said there's a few open positions. Is the open positions, although they are not hired currently, right? Is that reflected in your FY27 proposed budget to be hired in there? Is that reflected in there?
that is correct.
So all those positions that are currently open?
Yeah, in the highway is reflected, engineering is reflected. I think there are two positions when we get to the facilities budget that we removed. We have two associations there. We had same positions in multiple, so you will see that. There was a question that had been submitted in a reduction in the facilities. That's where it comes from. Those two positions were taken out, but we've staffed them through the Maintenance Association. So, but yeah.
And again, just to follow, it's been a struggle to find qualified applicants. I mean, we've had some, we've gone through the processes, and for whatever reason, the hiring process doesn't come through. I mean, we've been trying, sat in on a number of interviews, HR is thinking outside the box as well, trying to tag, Blue Hills, trying to tag the high school, trying to get some of those folks, maybe, younger staff coming in, trying to get their hands in the field. And it's frustrating, but we just keep running through it. And like I said, hopefully, eventually we'll get some qualified candidates and get fully up to staff.
Just to follow up, we do have a co-op student from Blue Hills in our mechanics area. I'd like, to publicly thank the mechanics that are working with them because it is hard to take a high school senior in and then try and show them, because everything you do now, you're trying to teach somebody. But our theory and our philosophy is we've got to go find our next hire before they hit the open market. So Blue Hills has been great to work with. And they are willing, they're looking for sponsors. So we have already talked to them in the fall about getting somebody in our electrical trade, somebody in the HVAC trade, another mechanic. So we are going to continue to grow this program. This is a pet program of mine. I feel very strongly about the trades. I feel very strongly that I'd love to work with the high school. I've talked to Superintendent McDonald about how do we go talk to our own students that may not be on the college track or want to be on the college track, that we can get them in. And even if we have to create our own type of co-op program, but I feel very passionately about this. We are going to find our people, and the way we're going to do it is before they get out in the other market, we're going to get them in and show them how great it is to be here, part of our team. So.
Thank you. A few more.
Go right ahead, yes, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Off of that, too, just looking at the line items in engineering, there is I just had it, the construction admin. In the book, it's a variance of a $51,000 decrease. In engineers, it's a decrease in about $60,000. Is that a position, or what's the decrease for engineers in the construction admin?
That actually is a position. The intent is not to abandon the position, so to speak, but to look for alternate ways to potentially fund it. So that is for sort of a level one sort of staff engineer that much like Assistant Director Hulk has been saying, we've just had a really hard time filling that position. It's been vacant for probably a year and a half at this point. So rather than carry it here, whereas that position would be working on capital projects, would be working on roadway projects, the intent is to keep the position but potentially fund it in other ways, such as Chapter 90 or something like that.
Thank you. And then a question that could be for Director Esmond as well. I just was curious, and this could be at a later date, if you have numbers for kind of the whole department, a percentage increase in staff that has been over the last year or the last couple of fiscal budgets, cost of living or something like that, or contracts, if we have a percentage of increase of all the employees in pay, if we can get that, or you have that now.
Okay, in compensation and not in headcount number?
Yeah, just
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I have one more question for now. For the snow and ice, to move to that, just had a quick question on, I appreciate all the hard work you guys did this winter. Obviously, we didn't have snow for a couple years, really, right? And then we had all these storms. So you guys got out there and I think did a great job throughout the winter with a tall task in front of us. But I know that we discussed during the capital meetings and some other times about the sidewalks and some of the equipment that's older and needs repairs. And in the line item for snow and ice, there is obviously the increase in the projected for FY26 to about $126,000 for outside motor vehicle repairs for the equipment. The budget was about almost 43,000. It's back to proposed for FY27, right, for 43,000. So obviously we can't predict how much snow we're going to get and what's going to happen to the machines. But can you guys go into that on why the proposal for 27 went back to about 43,000? If these machines haven't been replaced yet, or if they have, is that why it's back to 43? Just because you don't want to see that again when a storm happens and we have to fix it again, and we need new equipment, but then that price just goes up, because we do live in New England, it's going to snow, we're going to try to, you guys do the best you can with what we have, but I just didn't want to see if maybe there should have been an increase in that, if that is something we need to fix every time it snows.
Yeah, no, so I mean, we should see a little bit of improvement in that with this current capital. I know we're looking at 2 large trucks, which were some of our, correct, the sidewalk tractors specifically aren't necessarily targeted right away, but we are looking at new equipment, a couple new pickups, a couple of new large trucks with sanders, which we did unfortunately spend a fair amount of money on last year, so it is really, really hit or miss. I mean, we obviously, we take care of everything the best you can. The new trucks and engines with diesel exhaust fluid and all the emissions and everything, they've gotten so complicated, and you can look at these things sideways and they start acting up, which is unfortunate. But we're not going back to the old days of quote-unquote dumb trucks, dumb vehicles. But yeah, no, I mean, we always hope to see an improvement with the 2 new trucks, and so we got a new backhoe, so things like that should eliminate some of those costs in repairs. And ultimately, you know, it's kind of, I think, goes back to, it's the one account that you can deficit spend in, and you hope you don't need to, but it is an allowance there.
Thank you very much.
I probably just want to add, and thanks, I think Ben made a lot of good points. I mean, I think reality obviously is what it is. We've had, this will be the 3rd year in a row where maybe the 4th, where we'll be supplementing the snow and ice budget. Exactly to Ben's point, we are allowed under MGL to spend in deficit, provided that the municipality ultimately funds it. And I think if you were looking at most municipalities, you would see a similar approach. There actually is a little bit of strategy in the law. You're authorized to deficit spend, provided that you, in the budget, you have at least funded the prior year amount. I think the concern of a lot of municipalities is, if they were to increase this budget, it takes a little bit of future flexibility that they now have set a new ceiling that needs to be funded at any level. It is New England, absolutely. And so I think we recognize that, you know, that this is a very likely call on the reserves if we have any hard winter, and it is New England. So it is, you know, sort of something we're consciously making the decision. I don't think we're outside of the norm in utilizing the state law to the extent that it allows us to. But we want to be, you know, candid in that strategy and acknowledging that, you know, snow and ice, especially this year, has been a tremendous cost of the town. And while there are years where we've been below, you know, I think we recognize that there's years like this that obviously show you that you can quickly spend above your appropriation. I think one storm was over $500,000 itself. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Just to continue on that, and thank you for bringing up snow and ice, Councilor Sterling. So I looked at the 10-year average of what we've actually spent, and if you exclude 2026, it's about $760,000. If you include 2026, we're up to almost $900,000 a year over the last 10 years. So I understand that MGL allows us to deficit spend on snow and ice, but I'm struggling when we're not increasing that at all. What would happen if let's say we increased it to $750,000 and then we only spent $600,000? Does that balance then go into free cash?
No, sorry, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I thought you were going to ask if the balance was rolled forward from year to year. No, it would be when we closed out when we essentially closed the year, it would be ultimately it would be to the benefit of free cash.
So in years past, we have pressed hard to get the overtime numbers for police and fire to appropriate levels. And I'm just confused as to why we're not even moving the needle on snow and ice when we have like a decade worth of information that's telling us 600,000 is not enough.
Right, so I don't want to wave off the question, Madam Chair. I just think it really, I think, candidly, I think it comes down to budgetary firepower. In my estimation, if we were to raise it to 750, I think, yes, it would be moving more towards a historical average. In a year where it would mean now that we need to permanently fund snow and ice at 750,000 or whatever that amount would have increased to. And I think in that regard, we would be essentially restricting to some degree our ability in a challenging year to, to pull fund, to pull that down or reduce that appropriation. So, I think we know that this is one area where we will be challenged, and there is always exposure to the weather impacts. I think that's really the main approach in that to not increase it is just to give us as much flexibility as possible. I don't think. Respectfully, I don't know with the overtime that we had. It's entirely the same because I think we know from day one there's absent of a change in a manning plan or something. You're basically it feels much more likely on July 1st that you have certainty about the costs unless you're making an active change to how you're staffing your department that you're going to reduce the overtime based on what I had seen in the past.
Okay. Mr. McGoldrick, I saw you nodding. Did you want to add anything?
Sure. Just to Director Esmond's point, and I think he used the word, nailed it actually, flexibility, right? So other municipalities here in Massachusetts, they sort of budget the same way where it adds the most flexibility to your budget because once you go up, you can't go back down and then legally raise it as easily as you'd have in the past. And so even though, yes, costs are increasing and more than likely you will go over your budget, by doing it the way the town is doing it is A, consistent with other communities, but then also B, allows that flexibility versus your police and fire, a little different story. You obviously can't deficit spend those funds legally, and having that extra cushion in some of the budgets too for staff members that maybe aren't hired during the year, you can do those line item transfers throughout during the supplementals 1 and 2, which have been the norm for the town of Braintree.
Okay, thank you. And then in the notes, it read that the snow and ice deficit, the 1.7 million, was going to be paid for through a town reserve that's in the neighborhood of 3.35 million. Do I have that right, Director Esmond? Did I not read that correctly?
Well, I think what we've articulated for sure is that we will need to fund it with reserves. What we haven't done yet is we're still working on how we're going to close fiscal 26. I mean, the obvious source would be free cash. There may be other reserves that we're working to that will be available and that we could essentially defray us having to use free cash directly. It's a substantial number, as you can see in fiscal 26. So I think it's, I think it's likely it will have to be from that we wouldn't be able to self-fund it from, let's say, budgetary rescissions. That's not really a realistic solution. So I think that we're just, as we close fiscal 26 and file the next SUP, we'll know then how we want to intend to fund it.
Okay. Thank you for that information, and I appreciate the clarification. I think we should be real careful then when announcements are made that no free cash is being used on budgets when we're going to pretty much potentially be in a position where we are going to be using free cash potentially to close snow and ice in the years ahead, and this year it sounds like. So, okay. Councilor Flaherty, thank you.
Thank you. So I wanted to follow up on some staffing questions. So in the facilities and equipment division, we're spending $184,000 less this year on labor, custodians, and mechanics than we were last year. And I just wanted to understand what that reduction represents.
Thank you. Yes, so that reduction is, it represents some of the positions we talked about. We had some duplicate positions in two different unions, one in the Maintenance Association and one in the ASME union. And we've removed the funding for, in the ASME union for a mechanic, I believe, and also for electrician, and that's there's a reduction there, but we've duplicated that in our maintenance association, so we haven't really lost a position. We've just changed where it's funded out of, so that's where you see a reduction.
I see. So you just shifted those positions to a different division.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about like utilities and fuel.
Sure.
I noticed that what we are expecting to spend in those areas is like very fixed and sort of static, not sort of, static, in this year and this year compared to last year. But I think in the area of schools, there's some fluctuation.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
On utility costs themselves in the schools, and maybe Mike, you have probably a little more insight because of the contract, correct?
Correct. So maybe I can just highlight a few things. So I think, just for clarification, I think, Councilor, you're referencing the DPW program 419. That's on page 30 in the line item report. So that's schools utility. And obviously, we pay for utilities across a lot of other departments beyond just schools. So one thing to just note this year that we did on natural gas, which is probably our most variable, I mean, talking about, again, winter and cold weather, we did this year successfully lock our commodity price for natural gas, which is really the only area in natural gas that we have, sort of some control over this. I mean, the delivery, which represents, let's say, roughly 50% of your monthly heating bill, that's set outside. That's really kind of set at the state level in their regulatory oversight with the utility, and there's no really kind of pricing strategy that a municipality can employ to sort of bring a fixed cost to that. But we can lock a commodity, and so we did go out and secure a locked price for this heating season that started in December in 2025 through the heating season and through fiscal 2027. The nice part of that is it generated a little bit of savings year over year from what we would have otherwise been subject to in this fiscal year. It also protects us from the commodity increase that we're anticipating the utility will have approved next year as well. So that will help bring savings to the school's budget on the utility side, or at least cost containment, but also across all the town facilities. So all town natural gas meters were, I want to say it was like 40 or so, 39 maybe, were able to be locked at that. So, that's one approach. It's on the pricing side, because we are a big purchaser in the grand scheme of things for gas. We are, we are able to take advantage of that. On electrical, on the electrical side, obviously we are a community that's very fortunate in having a very successful electric light company, and we benefit from the rates there. I think the hope is that we're going to continue to find ways to employ energy efficient upgrades and innovations, not just at the schools, but also in other investments we're making, particularly around the roof handling units, the air handling units on the roofs. And so that is another area that we will continue to hopefully find savings for. And then finally on water sewer is really a much smaller component of it. I think it's the controllability of that is, again, somewhat related to the electrical side, is that as we make repairs and updates and modernizations, and having a preventative maintenance program, we're making the types of things, investments that help us reduce the usage side, because we are benefiting from, again, having a municipal water company that has a water rate that is competitive relatively compared to other municipalities.
Okay, so you're saying that we have made some improvements to our buildings and to our water and sewer, the plumbing in the buildings, and that is helping us realize these reductions in cost?
Right, and I think year-over-year budget, I mean, the savings there is relatively modest. I think for the school side, I think $20,000 on a $2 million budget is all that you're seeing reflected there. I hope that I think I could speak for folks here that's a target that's reachable, and obviously we know through future investments that we would want to have more aggressive goals in the future. I think we're trying to balance what we pragmatically think we can accomplish, but at the same time have our eyes on future efficiencies that can be further gained.
Are there efforts being made right now to try and plan out ways to reduce energy consumption in not just our schools, but our municipal buildings generally, and ways to coordinate with BELD efforts to capitalize on solar power or other kinds of power that can help us reduce our energy consumption?
Yeah, I think the struggle there is with having our own utility, you don't see the incentives for the upfront cost to do solar or wind or other areas. So what happens is you are fronting a much larger cost, and with the reduced rate that we receive in electricity, it's a lot harder to recover that money. So when you have a utility and grid, or they have a lot of incentives, and they help pay for the infrastructure and for the installation, where Bell doesn't do that. We don't have any of those incentives, so you're paying a much higher rate, and then your utility rate is already lower, so it takes a long time. There's the ROI on that is substantially larger than it would be in a community that may have a public utility. The difference is we're paying such a lower rate that we're making up for it in that way. Our rate is already so much lower. So it's a struggle, I would say. To your second question is, as we looked at the capital budget, we are trying to forecast things like rooftop units or other efficiency units. We're spending some money now at the high school in doing some window ceiling upgrades to try and stop airflow and try and make the buildings more efficient. So we are always looking for those ways, but some of the bigger projects like solar or which is the big one, it's just hard to get the ROI to be acceptable.
Okay, so I know that, for example, BELD offers residents an opportunity to have trees planted, to put shade in an area that will help keep the house cool. And these are opportunities that BELD extends to the residents that it serves. Are there ways that we can look to coordinate with BELD to have those kinds of initiatives applied to the municipal buildings that we use?
We certainly could. I would tell you right now, I don't know of those programs. That I would have to do some research for you. But yes, we have a great relationship with BELD. They're always willing to work with us, and I think we're willing to work with them. So I need to do a little research on that before I can answer the question that you've asked. It's a reasonable question. I just don't have a good answer. I need to look into some of those programs for you.
Okay, I know that we have a lot of very old buildings, and it is hard to retrofit them to use some of the newer technologies that newer builds can use to reduce energy consumption. Sure. But it's still terribly important, and I think that we have to be very conscientious in thinking creatively about how we can do it, and taking advantage of what low-hanging fruit there may be. I think those are my questions for now. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. Just while we have Assistant Director Hulk, before we move over to another division, a couple of questions for you, I think. Do we have an update on monies collected from for the tree fund?
Yes, that we don't, DPW doesn't collect money for the tree fund.
Okay.
So, I mean, we've had two instances, the 125 Union Street property. They cut down trees and they're going to be replanted. I've spoken with the gentleman several times. We're still holding them to that, but they're going to be replanted at the Covanta site, so with a plus of 3 extra trees. And I think there was 2 trees up on Commerce Drive that the developer up there, they're changing a driveway, so they need to remove those trees, and those are going to be replanted in additional spots on the same islands. So we're doing 1-for-1 swaps on our side, on DPW side, and the only other, I mean, there's really no private entities taking down town trees as far as DPW goes.
Fair. Thank you so much for clarifying. So Director Esmond, can we get an update on the tree fund then for next week, please? Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And then I think all of my general roadway questions have been answered. I will echo Councilor Maglio's sentiments from the beginning. Having the, numbers here, like we resurfaced 18,000 feet of roadway. That's a big number and that's a big deal. And 10,000 feet of sidewalk. Publishing those tangible metrics for residents, I think, is hugely important. It's a huge help. It all comes with the cost. And as a representative, then we can really show a 1-for-1, impact. Like, this is what, I think you gave it to us last year, Director Thompson, this is what 1,000 feet costs. So now multiply that over the town, like, this is why it takes so long. So I think if we can get an annual update, that would be a huge help. Okay. Everybody good for the second? And I will just offer up, if we have rolling questions, this is a huge department. Let's just use the time we have since this is our only department tonight, but I think we'll move on to facilities. Okay. Thank you both so much for being here. Do you want to lead us off, Councilor Maglio? Do you want to lead us off? Welcome. Thank you. Welcome to your first budget hearing. Councilor Maglio, you can take us away on the facilities questions.
Sure, thank you. I'll get us started. Time. It was nice. We got to meet you at an earlier Ways and Means Committee, and welcome, and I hope things are going great. My big question for the facilities department of the DPW department is, we've been hearing. Am I not close enough? Am I good? Okay. Just go on. Oh, okay. So my thinking, there we go. My thinking.
Thank you, Bill.
Oh, look at that. Thank you so much. We have a major shift happening in our schools, and we are seeing one school be moved to another location. And I'm wondering, what are the costs involved in that? And is that going to be, do we see that in this budget?
Yeah, so we have the moving services kind of underway. We just got an RFQ for that, so that's in there already.
I'm sorry, can you just speak or bring the mic closer?
Oh,
to you?
yeah,
Thank
sure.
you.
Yeah, so we have a lot of the costs already kind of covered. We're doing a lot of the work in-house in order to finish getting Old South ready for the move, or for the Highlands group to go in there. Highlands will be relocated by an outside contractor, so we have all of that underway as well. All of that is reflected in the budget so far.
May I think it's important to note that for this budget that you're looking at, I don't know that there are any, we're covering it under
it's
the
under
FY26 budget, not in an FY27 budget. So we are doing that with facilities as we prepare to get the school ready, and even the cost of the move will, that will be seen probably under the facilities revolving account to do that move. So it
But
would,
again, also part of FY26.
yeah.
Also part of FY26.
FY26. There are no costs that I know of, or Mike, you're going to correct me if I'm wrong, Director Hesman, but that are reflected in the 27 budget.
Okay, so the Highlands move to Old South, the costs are being covered in FY26.
Correct.
How? Was there a line item for a move? Is this just happens to come from a fund for facilities? Like, how would
Correct.
those costs anticipated if there wasn't actually?
Well, we didn't know the exact cost, but it's in the facilities line item. So it's under general facilities in the operations budget. So and I would say that the work that is being done now is very minimal. So we're painting out some spaces. We had a very, we thought we were going to have a more expensive elevator repair, but it turned out that they can get some parts, so it's not going to be anywhere near as expensive as we thought. So it's similar to repairing any other town building or facility that we have. We're using our operating budget to do that.
So to conceptualize it, instead of maybe doing those kinds of annual things that you might have done to the Highlands, you're kind of redirecting and you're doing those typical kinds of things to get Old South ready.
It's a good way to look at it. It's like any building. So if we, yes, we do repairs in buildings daily. So it's just another repair that comes out of an operational line in the budget, the current budget. But yeah, the way you described it is exactly correct.
And what kind of moving costs are involved for that moving company contract?
Yeah, so we just put an RFQ out with using the state bid for moving services. The lowest quote that came in was about $43,000. So that'll be the cost to relocate everything from Highlands over to Old South.
That is also covered in FY26.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's good for me for now.
Thank you, Counselor. Any facilities questions, Counselor Sterling? Go right ahead.
Thank you. Welcome. So I guess just to go off of that first, I had a few school-related questions. So what you're saying is any improvements to Old South currently and in the past, have these been taken from the FY26 budget, like prior to when the decision was made to move the students and the classrooms? Like, where was that money coming out of, if at all you were working on Old South prior to?
Well, we didn't begin any work there until that decision was made.
So you guys weren't doing any work at Old South prior to the decision?
It's been basic updates, nothing that would be substantial. So it was all basic maintenance.
Yeah, we want to be very careful because there was work that was done. So when that happened, similar to what Councilor Maglio said, it would be handled like any other building. So if it was done in the FY26, we would use that budget. If it was done prior to that, we would have used monies out of that budget, possibly out of a revolving capital. So it would kind of, I'm not trying to avoid your question, I'm just trying to be very careful that I answer the question correctly. So if it was something that we had done on the capital side, then we would have used capital funds that had been approved for a facilities project there. So I know that there were some things that were done in prior years that I want to make sure not everything came out of the FY26 budget.
But the move and anything in future until this budget is ended is coming out of a fund that you have money for. Currently, there's not going to be a sub-budget for the council to look at from this move?
Correct.
To go on that, in line item 416 with the custodians, it appears it appears that salaries, right, to move from Highlands from FY26, then now moves to South, or it's listed as South because there's New South and Old South.
Yes.
I'm New South and regular South, right? Whatever we want to call it here. Got too many, right?
Too many.
So that salary stays the same. My question is that, I have a couple of questions on that, is that's the one custodian that we're moving from the Highland School to Old South currently now?
3 custodians total, correct?
So 3.
It's 3 custodians total, that we would move them from one building
Yep.
to the other.
And so I know one of the reasons, obviously this isn't really facilities, was because the building was larger. And it was more updated is why they decided to move. Was there any thought or what is the thinking behind not getting another custodian if the whole tout was the building? And it is significantly larger than Highlands. So why is it just okay with just that 3 custodians to maintain that building?
We think with the population of students, we're going to be okay. Yes, the physical space is larger. We're going to do our best to maintain the custodians here without increasing a count. We may have to, in what we do in some buildings, is borrow from our facilities team if we see that it's, and maybe somebody goes over and helps during a lunchtime, or maybe they help supplement some of that. There is some calculations industry-wide that show how many square feet per custodian. It's about 34,000 square feet per custodian is what's kind of the industry average. So when we look at that, we're anticipating that that we'll be able to clean the space. But I would say that Director Gould and Mr. Zahn have already voiced some concern in that. So we're trying to keep it close, but quite honestly, they've already voiced a little concern that we might be a little too tight there. So we'll evaluate that.
And prior to this FY27 budget in Old South, there was no line item for custodial services, so we didn't have a full-time custodian over there. We obviously didn't have any students. We didn't have any students there as a town. We did have Base was using it, correct? So
Correct.
there was people using it. So is that reflected from the rent they paid? Was there someone in there making sure that building stayed clean and up to date? Because it was, we didn't have anyone in there for a couple of years, right? So
Correct. So we have we have some facilities laborers, and then we have our custodians. So the facilities laborers have been in facilities, there's a facilities foreman that go into that building and check, obviously to make sure it's in good shape. We also ask our partners that are using the building, Base and those to help us out with that, right, to be good tenants. And also there's been some rental in that property, some different opportunities to generate a little bit of revenue that we've been able to use to supplement that.
All right, thank you. I got a few more here for you to stay on the schools a little bit. So when you mentioned, I know you mentioned taking funds from FY26, and it's in the book here on page, 166. It does say an accomplishment in FY25, not to go too far back, was the replacing of the boiler in Old South. Mm-hmm. So can you just go into that, with that, the cost of the replacement of that boiler in FY25? I know some of the discussion on why we moved, as a town, moved the students from Highlands to Old South was the fact that the boiler in Highlands needed to be replaced because of the age and the constant maintenance for that boiler system in Highlands. Is there any, do you have any numbers or comparison on why the replacement was done at Old South, where we weren't housing any students 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, and it wasn't done at Highlands, where we were housing students at the time?
Sure. I might ask Justin Zahn to just come up because he was more involved with that. If he could just come. It was a little bit before I got here, and obviously Director Gould wasn't here as well. So, Justin, if you don't mind, just give us a little background on that.
The boiler at Old South is replaced because it completely died. We had to keep the building heated, and that was the only way we could heat that section of the building, which would be the gym, the caf, and 2 classrooms. If we didn't do that, and we lost a sprinkler pipe, then, I mean, insurance and everything else, so. The boilers at Highlands don't, one boiler could be replaced. One was installed in 17, I believe, with Noresco. It's the distribution system in Highlands that's the problem, the steam pipes, condensate pipes. We just put a new condensate tank in, sprung 2 leaks, warranted, so, but that will come out and we'll reuse that in a different school when we do close permanently.
So, sorry, thank you, Director Zahn. So what you're saying is you're going to take that boiler system out of Highlands?
Not the system, not the whole system.
Not the whole system, no, no, no. We'll take what we can out of there and still be able to heat that building.
Okay,
until
that's what
whatever decision is made with that building.
And do we have, or do you guys have, the cost, this may be for a different time if you guys can get it to us, the cost and, I want to say the cost and the man-hours put in through your department in, one, getting Old South, to have it keep running, we needed to heat it. I understand that the building was standing and we didn't want it to fall apart and not be in pipe bursts. But the man-hours and the money put in to getting Old South ready,
Yes.
right? In the last, let's say, 4 years, and the money it cost the town compared to the, the man-hours and the money that we've been putting into Highlands, making sure that those boilers are running and we don't have breakdown because we had students in that building. I'd just like to see the comparison of these last couple of years of, getting a building that didn't have students in it to one that had students, and then we're moving it into this building, which, it's up and running now, or it's going to be. But I just want to see the comparison of what did it take? Did it add to the budget? Did it add, whether it was coming from your general fund that you have there, but where's that money coming from to get that building ready to put students in? When, we did at one time say that it couldn't house students, and we needed to build that brand-new great school behind it. So if you guys could
Yes.
get that to us, that would be
We'll provide
extremely helpful.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think I have just one more for now, if you don't mind.
You go right ahead.
Do you have, this is also, you might not have it today either, have you been doing, it's kind of a 2-part question for Ross School, have you been doing any upgrades this fiscal year to Ross School that needed to be done?
In terms of what types of,
Whether
any
it's
upgrades at all? or-
boilers, like ongoing maintenance, whether it's a boiler system or HVAC or anything like that. that you see needs to be
Basically
done?
just work orders.
Just work orders?
Yeah, there's nothing major that needs to be done per se.
Okay.
It could use work, obviously, they all could,
Yep.
but you have to prioritize in terms of, obviously, the winter boilers take priority.
Yeah.
So, but no, there hasn't been any major
You did the
upgrades.
classrooms.
I'm sorry?
Didn't we do classrooms in Ross?
We did build out some classrooms last summer
Okay.
for, I don't know. what-
It's a program the school requested. I don't know the name of the program, so I don't want to say. But is it Abel's maybe?
Abel's, Ames.
Ames program. Thank you. So we did build out some classrooms there. So that was some work that was done, that was completed last summer. So that involves some electrical work, some interior wall building, but that was done internally with our facility staff.
Yeah. And so to go back to Old South for a quick minute, I do know, correct me, I wasn't here in the last couple of budgets on this, in this role. We all know that they filmed a movie over there last year, right, in October, around October. Did the town get any funds from them renting that out? And if so, where did that money go back into that building, or did it go to something separate, to a different fund?
So, Counselor, yes, the town did receive rent for the month or so that it was used for the movie. I want to say it was in excess of 20,000 or so. The funds that we received were deposited into the new facilities revolving fund that Director Jocks had mentioned earlier. So any rent we generate through the licensing or rent of the town facilities, for the most part, is now going into that fund and is made available per the change we did last year for ordinary repairs, utilities. We asked for broad authorization, and we were thankfully given it for the maintenance of school or really to supplement the maintenance of and repairs and operations of school and town facilities.
Yeah. Or moving a school to, right? That's the same fund?
Contracted services, things like that, for example, yeah. These
Okay.
are strained budgets, and we thought this was that was a creative solution and helped to align as we talked about, I think yesterday actually, that where we are using town properties to generate some income, align those with the underlying challenges of keeping these facilities maintained to some degree.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Flaherty?
No questions at this time.
Thank you so much. I had a follow-up question, and it maybe is from partially the capital plan. So again, referring back to the FY 2025 accomplishments, one of them reads, replaced aging RTUs at Thayer Public Library. That was also in the capital plan for FY 26. So I'm like confused. What's coming out of the operating budget and what's coming out of the capital plan? Or was it two different initiatives?
I don't think those are two different initiatives. I think it probably reflects that. So in the accomplishments, the direction we give to departments is that we're not trying to just be, in the goals, we're not trying to just be restrictive to operating budgets.
Okay.
From an all funds perspective, we're trying to have departments sort of share accomplishments, et cetera, how they set their goals, based on a sort of all the things they do and all the funding sources they use to do them. I think that probably reflects that a lot of the work to design the replacement and to get the bid out was performed actually in fiscal 25. The actual work, of course, was spent. The dollars were spent in fiscal 26, and they were therefore reflected in the 5-year CIP that was filed.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure if we're looking at this from an all funds perspective, that's really helpful. And then I apologize if I missed this earlier. Going to page 167 in the budget book, we've got broken out school custodian services, school maintenance division, and school utilities. And do we have a separate line item in laid out like this for other town departments? I'm just curious why is it a formatting thing? Like, why is it chosen to be broken up like that?
I'll answer it. I know Rob's here, but I think you'll probably recall, right? We used to have town facility costs broken out in greater detail. So I think there was a program for town hall. Mm-hmm. And I think a few years ago, I think prior to my time here, but maybe it was the year right before it, we consolidated those 2 or 3 programs into just building maintenance. So just the program 2, which is essentially the facilities for, let's call it everything town side except for the schools. The programs that are reflected here, that's essentially, I think, it's still inherited from essentially what the orgs that came over from the schools when the town took them over in the reorg. So the custodial or maintenance costs of the facilities department are all rolled into that building maintenance program too, essentially.
I see.
So the equivalent comparison is if you had one singular school maintenance program and you rolled the utilities and custodial services into that, that would essentially be the true
Okay.
apples to apples.
Okay, that clarifies that, thank you. And then last night, and Director Jacques and Director Gould, I don't even know if you've seen this yet, Director Esmond provided the committee with a list of all town properties on which there is a building. We know we have properties that don't have buildings, and there was really, to my surprise, most of those are being utilized in some form or fashion. And I'd like to understand, as we look ahead, is there, setting aside 7490 Pond Street, we know that's on the to-do list, we heard about that from the planning department. What's our strategy for evaluating how those properties are being used, if they're being maximized for efficiency, cost of doing something else with them? Could you speak to, if you have information, could you speak to a little bit to what your strategy is for assessing the portfolio of potentially underutilized town properties?
Yeah, I have seen what Director Esmond put together. I think it's something that we've talked about is what do we do with these buildings? I'm actually in a course right now on real property disposition through the state to my continuing education for my MCPPO certification. So one of that talks about how do you lease buildings correctly, how do you sell buildings off, how do you do things like that. So I think it's a bigger conversation than what I could answer tonight for you, but I think that we think a lot about, and with input from our facilities team, which buildings are valuable to us and which buildings really we should find a disposition method that's best for the town. So although I don't have that list for you tonight, I think it's something that is going to continue to drive our conversations, and how do we better utilize the spaces that we do have. So I have seen it. I am working hard to try and figure out how do we properly, what's the proper disposition for these buildings. So some might be lease, some might be sale, some might be other uses that we could use. So I'm not prepared to give you for each property, but it is something that us, and working closely with the facilities team, they give me the updates on what these buildings, what is wrong with them, or what is right with them, right? So some of these properties we always talk about what's wrong, but we do have some that there's a lot right with that have some uses. So we have some short-term plans that you'll see. For example, the Foster School. I was in talking with Chief Viola. I found out that the fire department was going to Quincy to train. We don't have a building that they could train in, so we were going to Quincy. So I offered them that building, the old Foster School, as a training facility so that we can keep our fire department. And then I also offered it to the police department as a way for them to train in a building, a real life situation. So although not the permanent use, we are trying to think, where are we underutilizing other departments, or where are we not being supportive of other departments, and try and support them so that they don't have to go to other towns and ask for that kind of support when we can do it here. So they're going to start to use, they're going to build a maze in the gym that they use to do training as they go through. They're going to build there's some other equipment that they build, a breakable window and some things like that. And then the police certainly can use the classrooms to do active shooter training and things like that. So we are trying to think about how do we support our other departments as well with some of our buildings. So kind of an unconventional use, but we have a building there, let's use it. So.
Well, I think that is an excellent way to use what I would call underutilized, and now they're not underutilized anymore. So thank you for thinking that through. Councilor Flaherty.
Thank you. This jogged my memory, and I had a question about what kinds of resources and expenditures are we putting into the former water building behind us over here?
To JFK?
Yeah.
Right now, we're not putting any resources into that, to my knowledge. I know there's some talk about using that building for other purposes. Right now, we have not put any resources other than maybe fixing a door that got broken or somebody tried to vandalize. So we are not putting any resources into that building.
So I just want to make sure that we're not allowing it to deteriorate.
No
if
further
we have a plan for it in
deterioration.
the
Yeah,
future.
so we do make sure that if, to my knowledge, there's no glass broken there at this time to you. So if there was glass, we would board it. If there was a door that was able to be opened, I know the facilities team went over and secured that. So we're not allowing it to deteriorate any further than it is, but we're also not going in and actively putting any resources into that building.
Okay. Would you say the same thing about 90 Pond Street?
90 Pond is being utilized by,
The Boston Police Department?
yeah, we have,
They rent
they do some SWAT training,
Yeah.
there's some police training that goes on in that building. I would say that building, in that example, we're probably not as diligent on boarding up broken glass. I know there's a couple of broken windows in that building, but I don't believe that building is deteriorating any faster than it would, and we're certainly not putting any resources into that building.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else for facilities at this time? Yes, go right ahead, Councilor.
Quickly, on the money you're using from the fund, the facilities fund, with the move to Old South or any improvements to Old South, is there any way that you could supply the committee with those numbers, like what's in that fund currently, where's it coming from, and what you're using for whether it's outside contractors or to fix the elevator or things that need to be done in that school to make it habitable for the incoming class in 2027 school year? Please.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Appreciate it, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you, Counselor, for that request. Okay, let's move on to trash.
All right. Dirty subject.
Mr. Kuntz, thank you for being here. Last night, we did hear from the planning director that they're undertaking some preliminary studies and looks at the transfer station writ large. So certainly open to those questions this evening, but in terms of future planning, I think we'll leave that up to the planning department and Councilor Maglio, your committee. But for trash, like the trash facility, trash fees, all that, thank you for joining us, Mr. Kuntz. So who would like to begin? Anybody? Do you have anything you want to start with?
Well,
You gave him an open mic.
I know,
This is
gave
your
him
own
the mic.
fault. Whatever happens next is on you.
No, I would like to thank Councilor Flaherty. She made my job tonight much easier with her recent submission concerning trash and trying to structure it in a way that the residents would better understand, because there are a lot of moving parts to it. Some of it we can contract for, some of it is market dependent. But we are looking at several alternatives as we move ahead into fiscal 27. The mayor has asked us to look at the impacts of a pay-as-you-throw program coupled with our existing trash program. So it would be a modified pay-as-you-throw program. And that isn't done in a vacuum. I've got meetings scheduled with our collection contractors because any changes we make are going to be, will impact those budgets. I've got meetings set up with DEP who will participate in the evaluation and implementation of a pay-as-you-throw program for us if we decide to go in that direction. I would like to say that DEP participated 13 years ago when we evaluated the option of doing a pay-as-you-throw program or the selection and purchase of the cart program. And pay-as-you-throw programs always reduce the amount of trash. Where does it go? Some of it goes to private contractors. Some of it goes on the side of the road so Ben's crew can pick it up. But it's not a significant issue, and we've talked about this. Illegal dumping takes place today, and I think it's very well controlled in this town. There isn't not the amount that you would think. But when we worked with DEP 13 years ago, they recommended the CART program as opposed to a pay-as-you-throw program, and we actually reduced our trash tonnage almost 3,000 tons a year by going to the CART program. So there are savings, and we demonstrated that with the CART program. If we go to a modified pay-as-you-throw program, it will shift some of the financial responsibilities back to the residents. And actually looking at the way that we use our utilities, it is a utility. And if you generate more trash, your cost should be higher than the person next door to you that puts out a couple of small bags every week. And right now, the equity isn't as strong as it should be. And there's where a modified pay-as-you-throw program, keeping the CART program that we have, but charging a reasonable fixed cost for components like a refrigerator. If you're going to buy a refrigerator, you know there's going to be disposal costs, and you need to factor that in as a resident. So we would have actually probably a bag and tag program where we would have town bags for excessive overflow trash, and we would have a tag program for individual items that people don't have a way to get rid of them. So we're looking at all those things as we move into fiscal '27. Any major change of programs wouldn't take place till January. It will take at least that long to put the program together, to get vendors involved, to get town businesses involved. We've got to restructure the way that we collect fees. Will it be water, sewer, treasurer's office? Those are all things that will be evaluated as we move forward. That's kind of where we are, where we're headed, and if I can help answer any other questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Councilor Flaherty.
The question I have is, there are ways we can use funding. You've discussed modified pay as you go initiative that you're exploring. I think that's great. But other towns tackle it in a variety of other ways. We have overall less effect, but I think are good tools to have in the process of trying to reduce the tonnage. And one of those is to have like a swap location where people can drop off used goods, like an old dresser that you don't want, another, that weighs a lot, right? It would add a lot to our trash tonnage if we were to throw it out, but that somebody else might be interested in restoring. Old bicycles, those kinds of things can be put into a program like that so that people, because, you know, one man's trash is another person's treasure. How come Braintree has never pursued something of that nature?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, that almost every community that has a swap shop would prefer that they didn't start it, because what happens is that a lot of unusable items get dumped there. It has to be overseen, it has to be managed. You have to be aware of trash pickers, people that come in and grab items that might have value that they can resell. It's a program that's normally a volunteer program, and finding enough volunteers to manage a program like that is always difficult. I visited a couple of the swap shops recently, and yes, they can be successful, but it takes a major commitment on the part of the town. It's a major commitment for individuals to volunteer, and the resources in the department can't support that. It would have to be an initiative that, pick a name, Sustainable Braintree, for example. That might be something they might be interested in doing. We have to find a location for it. We have to build a facility that will protect the items that are put there, and we have to be prepared to manage the illegal dumping that takes place in those facilities.
Okay, and additionally, another suggestion that was put to the town council as part of a memo that was delivered to us through our town auditor, or our council auditor, was if you reduce the size of the bin that you're using, the cart that you're using, you often, over time, net out less trash. Is Braintree considering that as an option in part of this modified pay-as-you-throw that you're discussing?
It will be one of the things that we'll evaluate, yes, we will. We have pirate contractors that service the town now because there are certain items that we don't collect, mattresses being an example. There are activities underway on the legislative level to have more manufacturers responsible for the items that they produce and for the disposal of it. You know, televisions, mattresses, refrigerators, those kind of appliances. There's really no reason that there shouldn't be manufacturer responsibility. It's a longer-term program, and we'll look at the impacts. For example, McConnell Scrapyard here in Braintree will take flat-screen TVs for residents at no cost. We've been able to create a relationship with them that provides that outlet, because there's anywhere else that you take a flat screen, you're going to pay for it. Best Buy, for example. Batteries, we don't collect batteries because of the danger of them. We direct people to Home Depot and Lowe's. So we have sources that we make available to the residents. Our biggest problem, very honestly, is communicating those things. It's very complicated. Recycling is very complicated. It's changing. Last year, there were 2 major changes brought on by DEP that we had to adjust to. And residents, it becomes very confusing. You don't have the resources to be able to manage them, and the costs fall on the town. So we're trying to build all that into the program. Social media, websites, they all help, but I have to say 50% of our residents don't have access to that information or don't take the time to access it because there is so much information available. But we don't stop trying.
Right. It is complicated, and I understand how hard it is to educate people on it seems simple, but when you look at the products that you can buy at even just your local grocery store, they're made of many different materials, and you think you understand it, and then you're like, well, wait, this is made of 2 materials. Is it recyclable or not? And a very dedicated person can go and check it at the DEP website and Recycle Smart and sort it out to some extent. But that's a heavy lift. Lots of people don't have time to put into their trash like that. But so far in this conversation, we've been talking about the kinds of things that the town can do to change the trash program that residents engage with. But I would like to turn our attention now to the kinds of things that our town can do to reduce the amount of waste that we put out municipally. This includes every aspect of that, but in particular the schools. Something like single-use plastics. Are we making an effort to try and reduce the amount of waste that we put out as, in our town government or in the services that we provide to the town? Is that being looked at in a systematic way?
Yes, we have been over the years, and most recently, food waste is a good example to highlight your point. We've made access to our residents to a company called Black Earth, where they can contract to have Black Earth pick up food waste in order to reduce the amount of trash they're putting out and also environmentally improve how they handle that material. The schools are also doing a program with Black Earth in conjunction with ours, and they're experimenting on food waste out of the cafeterias. I have not talked with the director of food waste about trays and food trays and dishes and so forth, but that's always a topic that comes up. It's extremely costly to go down that road, but we are looking at it on a regular basis. Those would be examples of what we're currently working on. We're trying to find a better supplier for mattress collection, trying to consolidate that to one vendor for the residents to contact to get their mattresses picked up. We're working with Capital Waste to improve the communications for residents to be able to contact them to get rid of material. We've set up collection points at the recycling center for metals, and we actually move 2 dumpsters every week out of the recycling center of metals that had been previously collected by Capital Waste and then delivered to Covanta Reworld, as it's called today. So over the years, particularly the last 3 or 4 years, many steps have been taken in that direction. Are there more? Yes, there are. And we will continue to look for them and try to build them into the program.
Absolutely, yes.
Just I want to explore this more because, with all due respect, I don't think you answered the counselor's question, which was, what are we doing at the municipal level? So I understand we're providing services for residents, and I'll get to the composting in a minute because there's zero financial benefit to residents to doing that. But as a town, what are we doing? You mentioned that it sounds like the schools are doing a pilot with Black Earth compost for food waste. So I think
Yes.
what I would like to understand is, what schools are working on that, what is the cost and what is the savings, right? Food waste is extremely heavy. We know we pay by a ton. And then what if anything, are we doing, and this may be for the schools, and you can tell me if this is for the schools, Director Jacques, but as Counselor Flaherty mentioned, like the amount of single-use items just in the cafeteria alone, like have we done an analysis? Have we looked at the cost of the single-use items, the cost of the waste generated by the single-use items, never mind the, the existential climate, but setting that aside, versus the cost of the water and the reusable and the breakage that comes along with that and that sort of thing. Has anybody looked at doing that type of work?
So I would direct the school's purchases to the school. And,
Okay.
when we look at our purchases or we try the things that we would do in schools, which would be our biggest users of single use, we do try and look at our chemicals to do chemical stations as opposed to bottles of chemicals so that we are not, that we are using, for example, cleaners and things on a bulk as opposed to a single. But as far as what they're using in the cafeterias or in other areas of the school, I would really have to direct you to the school to ask that question.
Okay.
Because we don't get involved with their purchases of those,
Fair
kind,
enough.
of those
Well,
kind of things. I
we'll-
understand. And as far as our buildings, we to be completely transparent, we have not done that study. It's probably something that's worthwhile to take a look at and see what are we still purchasing in the single-use category that we could reduce. To be completely honest and transparent, we haven't done that study for the DPW, but we could certainly look at that.
I just think before we ask our residents to change their lifestyle, frankly, we
Right.
need to take a hard look at what we're doing as a municipal body and government as well, and hold ourselves to that same standard.
Sure.
So I'm sorry, Counselor, carry on.
So I will ask, where is which school is piloting the Black Earth composting program?
The high school is where the program began, and they are trying to move it into the middle schools. I don't have an update from the director at this point to give you.
Okay. So is the right person to talk to about that then the school superintendent?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I think I will echo Councilor Verica's, comments that it's terribly important for us as a town to be thinking about what we can do to reduce our, footprint, so to speak, our carbon footprint, but also our solid waste output, because a single individual can make very little change, no matter how austere their waste practices become, because they're just one person. But our town is a much larger entity, and we have a much greater power to have a wider spread impact. And that is our responsibility to steward this community in an environmentally sound method going forward. And I think it's been kind of ignored, but that needs to change.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Go ahead, Counselor Sterling.
Thank you for being here tonight. Just a few quick questions. So with the trash, we have the trash fee for the barrels and for the collection for the residents and the businesses. Do we have numbers on, the revenue that creates compared to what it costs the town to collect the trash and have it? So, what's the difference in that for the new fee structure?
Council, I can get you the exact numbers. I presented last Wednesday very quickly on the revenue overview, but we do have online posted the estimate for our trash roll-up. So roundly, right now we're projecting in fiscal 27 about between $2.9 and $3 million. And that the biggest increase from fiscal 26 is the $50, bringing the residential fee to $300. The best way, I think, to capture sort of the comparison is if you're looking at, to the expense side, is if you're looking at program 412. So in fiscal 27, that appropriation is in excess of $3 million, 3.36 to be exact. One of the questions that came up, I can't remember if I think it was on the other side of the calendar year, but CLA and I had an opportunity to jointly present to the Ways and Means along with Jeff on some different analyses we had done. And one of the questions that I think Councilor Flaherty had asked at the time was whether or not, we should have an enterprise fund. Other communities, I think dozens of them have a trash enterprise fund. And I think that's actually continues to be a longer term goal we would look at to try to really essentially ensure that the revenues that the town generates for solid waste or other programs associated with waste removal and recycling and other things equal the expenses, probably plus some amount of reserve for capital investments or other things that we would do to make sure that we're running that like an enterprise fund. That wasn't a realistic 27 goal because you can see we still have a mismatch. And I think we said at the time we wouldn't want an enterprise fund that was, sort of on its first day was imbalanced. But that is a goal that we have, is to try to bring this in. And that is something that when we started the 3-year $50 per year increase, that was one of the reasons that we wanted to have those aggressive increases and ask the residents to make those investments, increase their expenses, because there was a substantial mismatch. We're getting closer to balance, but it's not in balance yet.
Thank you for that. And I know there's some mentions of tonnage that we have to take and trying to decrease that as we should any way that we can. But do we have numbers on what the town pays per ton when we collect trash, and how does that compare to other communities surrounding us at all? Or maybe Boston or something like that?
The town has a contract with Reworld to dispose of our trash. And that contract was a 20-year contract that'll expire in 2030. The favorable rates that we pay, right now it's about $25 a ton that we're paying, and the market rate today is about $112 a ton to get rid of trash. There is no revenue from recycling and so forth. So,
could you just repeat that? What you just said? You said that we pay $25 per ton.
The charge from Reworld to the town of Braintree is about $25 a ton and change. And the market rate, for example, when Weymouth Truck pulls in there, they're paying $110 a ton.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jim. That's all I have.
Counselor. Okay, so we'll direct some of our earlier questions to the school department. I just do want to make sure that I'm clear, because I'm looking at the compost program. Do we know how many people have taken advantage of that or have signed up?
Right now, there are not enough people to make it an automatic collection. They've talked with me about going to an every other week, but I think their marketing and their outreach has to reach the residents that have shown interest. Typically, about 80% of the residents stay in the program. Right now, there's only about 85 people that have signed up.
Okay, I would offer, so the way that I understand this is that it costs the residents, depending on how frequently they want the compost picked up, either $180 annually if they want every other week pickup, and $230 annually if they want weekly pickup.
That's correct.
But they are not getting a commensurate discount on their trash.
That's correct.
So there's no financial incentive for a resident to take advantage of this program.
At this time, no.
Okay, well, that's a fundamental flaw of a program, in my opinion, then. But I think that's probably a big reason why we haven't seen a higher uptake. The other question I'd like to pose, do we have in the shorter run, right? I'm very, very grateful, and I'm very happy to hear we're exploring pay as you throw. We're creating an ungodly amount of trash. It is averaging 1 ton per household in Braintree per year, 2,000 pounds. That is insane. And part of what we're doing is low trash users, like elderly folks who maybe are empty nesters, single folks, are subsidizing high trash users.
Yes.
And I continually hear from constituents, as I'm sure many of us do, about affordability issues, and to have a flat rate for what, as you, I think, correctly classified, Mr. Kuntz, as like a utility, essentially. Trash is the only thing that we have a flat rate for. I'm not paying, if I don't use electricity, I don't pay for electricity. If I don't use water, I'm not paying for that water. So in my opinion, we have a real disconnect between incentivizing reduction and cost. Like Econ 101 is not adding up for trash. So I'm wondering, and I would like to pose in the near term, is there a way for residents who choose and would want to go to the smaller carts, who aren't producing, I think, what is it, a 96-gallon cart right now is the standard?
64 gallons.
64-gallon, okay, to go to the 32-gallon cart, would that be something that we could look at for a reduction in cost for those residents who are actually producing less trash?
Unfortunately, the 35-gallon containers, based on
35.
the contract, that's the smaller cart, which we have many residents that are using it. The contract that we have with Capital Waste was based on automated pickup. And small carts, switching the equipment to be able to pick up a small cart is not convenient. It's almost a manual operation. They agreed to continue to pick them up, but we have not encouraged an expansion of the program because of that. As we look at a pay-as-you-throw program, we may look at a modified collection program where we do more manual collection of trash and automated collection of recycling. And in that way, we can accommodate people that have smaller carts, or even identify a barrel. Maybe there's just a sticker that goes on a barrel, and they don't have to invest in a cart. So we'll be looking at that as a part of the pay-as-you-throw program. But presently, there's no way to separate the small user from the large user.
What is the timeline for getting to an answer or an analysis on the pay-as-you-throw?
If we have a target date to start, it would be January 1st. That's what we're working toward.
Okay.
Whether or not I can put all that together in the next couple of months, working with the other departments in DPW, I think it's achievable, but we'll keep you posted on the progress we make.
Please, thank you. We have a serious, we're upside down on how we are thinking about waste in this town. Like, everything is about convenience and not the actual true cost of what we're incurring. And I will be very anxious and interested to hear how we're thinking about construing the modified pay-as-you-throw, and I hope it's in a way that is equitable and also is really forward-thinking in terms of where we're going. There's a potential in 2030 that there's going to be a food waste ban statewide. That's on the table right now. So that's a whole other level of waste reduction that I don't see that we're anywhere close to prepared for dealing with. Mm-hmm. And I will leave it at that. I will thank you.
Those are excellent points.
Thank you very much for being here, Mr. Kuntz, tonight, and thank you for fielding all these questions, and sure. I'll look forward to an update in the coming months.
Good.
Anything else on trash and recycling?
Thank you.
Director Jacques, did you have anything else to add on this one before we turn it back to go to Parks and Rec?
Not unless there's any specific questions, no.
Okay. Parks and Rec? Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Croak. Okay. I don't know if you want, and I want to make sure residents know that the director had provided this committee with a very comprehensive update at our capital plan meeting, so thank you so much for the detail on that. If there's anything you'd like to add, I'll give you the floor.
No, I think to echo Director Jack's previous sentiment, as far as our focus is at the rec department with grounds and cemetery and just programming in general, we're constantly looking at ways to improve efficiency. So that's a big theme of our day-to-day operations. Again, Director Jacques mentioned that we have a field lining robot, so that's kind of allowing us to more efficiently juggle some of the challenges and logistic hurdles that we have from a labor standpoint. It frees us up to take care of some other areas on the ground side that, the never-ending list of just things that need to get done. So we're able to efficiently manage that. Field scheduling, all the different requests that we get from user groups in town. We're able to maximize the field usage in the town to make sure that we're accommodating as many of those requests as possible. So a little bit here and there across the three subdivisions of the rec department. Efficiency is a major theme. So,
thank you so much.
Sure.
I will open it up to the committee for questions. I didn't see a specific section in the budget book. Did I miss it? Or for Parks and Rec? I might have.
It's in the culture
Oh, thank you.
and
Thank you,
recreation
Counselor Sterling.
section, so it's sort of pulled out
I
differently.
apologize. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Counselor.
Okay. 213. Perfect. Any counselor want to start off? Counselor Maggio? Go for it.
Sure. I would be happy to. I have a question about, it's more of a policy question, I guess, than it is a budget question, but it could relate to the budget. And I've mentioned it before, and I'm just going to say it tonight, just to kind of put it out there again, in hopes that it's something that could happen. The Watson Park is a space that gets more beautiful every week and every season, and it's highly utilized, and it's a place that's very special. There was a point where there was a decision made that in order to use the splash pad, that people needed to show an ID. And that was to make sure that people who use it live in Braintree, and they can prove that they live in Braintree. And I think that decision came about at a time where there were busloads of campers that were coming, there were camps from all areas, and it was congestion, there was trash, there were all kinds of nuisance issues that the community complained about. And so that was when the decision was made to require only Braintree residents can use the splash pad. And I'd like to revisit that, and I would love for that to be an open conversation that you all have, because I don't think that has to be either or. I think that both things can happen, where it can be managed, where camps aren't sending busloads of kids for the day. Parents are paying for their kids to go to camp, and then the camp is taking them to this, and then people that live there can't use it. Totally get it. But it could be something that's permitted. It could be something that a camp pays a fee, and every Wednesday morning there's a couple of hours that are devoted to them. And so it's a way that it feeds back into the park or the splash pad as a revenue source. It builds goodwill, and it doesn't penalize some dad walking along with his 4-year-old, but they live in Weymouth. You can see their house, but they can't use it, and the man pulls the kid back, and the kid's crying, and I've seen it happen over and over again, and it just seems so, and it's a 16-year-old that is carting them, and how awkward is that for these kids? So I think that there's some work that we could do around that to change our policy in a way that doesn't create more congestion in a way that parking is known if people are getting a permit or something, or if the buses come, they park in a certain spot. Signage, it's very confusing as to where people are supposed to park. The signs kind of point to the Smith Beach parking lot, but you kind of feel like you're in nowhere land. And then to walk back, it seems like it would be half a mile, even though there's just a quick little cut through, but you don't necessarily see it. So those are just some things that I think could promote more usage, and with more usage, we could control it with some sort of a permit or fee or sticker or something.
Yeah, I think we've had those conversations internally during my time here, and we've wrestled with some of the logistical challenges of when we start to play it out. Okay, if we were to implement something like this, what does it look like from a day-to-day operational standpoint? And there are some, challenges. I don't think they're necessarily insurmountable, but they're things that we need to take a hard look at to see if it's something that we can manage efficiently and appropriately. I think one of the major things is parking. That's a big concern, is that, instilling a permit system or a fee system doesn't necessarily increase the amount of parking down there, and it's a challenge as it is. So I think it's just something that if you open up the door, you need to be ready for everybody that comes through. I think there is the dad coming with a 4-year-old and getting turned away immediately. I think that could continue to be an issue for people that don't realize you need a tag or some kind of permit purchased ahead of time, and then do we handle cash down there? So there's just the little things where it's, again, not insurmountable, but things that really, we need to take a hard look at and make sure that it's the right way to do it if we were to do it. I certainly don't want to take a half measure and put something in place that then is suddenly a disaster and we have to rethink every single year until we get it right. I don't want to sit on any potential change for too long, but I don't want to rush into it either. So we've had those conversations, and we continue to have them. So
I appreciate that very much. I appreciate the thought you're giving to it and the fact that it's something that's being explored to be successful, because we certainly don't want to create all those nuisances again for the residents. And we also want to see this beautiful area utilized. And it could even be a fund that goes back into the upkeep and care of the splash pad itself.
Of course.
So that was, I guess I'll turn it over to my colleagues now. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Councilor Sterling.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Director, for being here, and thank you for all your answers to all my questions outside of this. Going through the parks in Watson the other day looks really nice, and your improvements that you're doing all over town, including the 2027 goals with trying to repair the parks, the playgrounds, fields. I think that's a huge part of our town. The whole town is great, like and with DPW as well, like the fixing the roads, fixing the sidewalks, painting lamps, like small things. Like people think it's small things like that, and it's not. I think it's huge when you're driving down the street and everything looks brand new and it's painted and the swings are working and the grass is cut and like wood chips are down, and it's just they're not really that minimal. They affect everyone every day. And that's not just Parks and Rec, that's DPW, highway, engineering, everybody. So I just want to appreciate, that for you guys to get those details down every day with your employees and your staff. So with that, I'll have questions. So I have a question on the summer camps. As a proud alum, as I went there and as a counselor. So obviously, I haven't really looked at the budget years ago. So there's fees for these summer camps when you go to these schools, and I really appreciate all the teenagers, and whether it's high school or college kids, coming in and working. So the funding for that, it says, we got to fund the employees. So, it's a cost. How come that cost doesn't almost like pay for itself with the shirts, lunches, if that still exists? Because obviously we're not paying rent, right, to our own buildings, or if we are. So is there a way, are fees going up for parents and for kids each year, and is that still balancing that, or is that paying for itself, or do we have to pay it out of general fund?
For the most part, there is a large Staffing expense, obviously with the increase in minimum wage a couple years ago, that's affected things. We analyze our costs of the programs every year to make sure that, they're as self-sufficient as they possibly can be. We reduced some expenses in the sense of, previously kids got numerous shirts throughout the year just for participating, and a lot of parents were like, "Stop with the shirts. We have too many shirts." So that was an expense that we were able to kind of creatively reallocate towards some of those staffing increases. Additionally, we've worked with the school nutrition department to work with them for lunch options. So there was another savings there. So again, that theme of efficiency, trying to make sure that a lot of these programs are as self-sufficient as possible, but there is a little bit of subsidizing in the budget as far as staffing goes. A large amount of that is towards lifeguards and Sunset Lake staff. Again, that's not a revenue-driven area, whereas the programs are. So again, programs we can control and get very creative with cost increases, not annually, but incrementally over time to make sure it's not a shock to the system for parents of those increased costs. But a lot of the budgeted costs, staffing costs, go towards lifeguards and such at Sunset Lake.
Yeah. No, I thank you, and I think these camps are great at a time when a lot of places aren't having summer camps anymore because of the affordability or because of just costs overall. So that we can continue to do this, and for our youth and for parents, summer they're out of school, so it gives them something to do and get out and use our facilities. So I think that's really a continued service that we do that I enjoy. And so on the 415 DPW, it's the Recs and Community Events. Could you just walk me through the July 4th festivities and parade line item for $25,000, like what that entails? I know there's the town puts it on with another entity. So what's the town's budgeted?
It pretty much goes
for?
towards the overtime costs for the grounds crew, and a portion of that also goes towards the costs for details, police details. So it's pretty much the hands-on day of.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Go ahead, Counselor Flaherty.
Thank you. I would just like to continue the discussion around summer camps. I would love to see Braintree build out that program because parents really need it, and also because what is on offer is so excellent. Both of my students availed themselves of different aspects of the program over the years. Field trippers, perennial hit, they loved it. And sometimes we run out of space and kids don't get to go because there's just no more room on the bus. So I was thinking, has there been any consideration given to building a revolving fund to cover that so that you could, run it and then use profits from the success of it to build it out over the years?
Yeah, so that's in a nutshell, that's kind of what we do. Anyways, those fees do go into a revolving fund that do kind of carry over year to year. We try to identify the individual programs on a singular year to try to make it as self-sufficient as possible, and then scale out and improve those programs with some of the previous year's profits, if there were any to be had. I think the challenge with building out those programs is it's more of a staffing and space issue. For example, the kiddos program, we're limited with space and ratios to safely administer the program. I think if we had a massive space to work with, then we can scale up a little bit more. Some things that we've thought about internally are potentially offering another entirely new program for a different age group that captures a little bit more of a group that isn't as for some of the programs, sometimes there's a large wait list. So that's an identifiable spot where we can say, okay, there's a market there, there's a demand there. Maybe we offer another program for that age group. But again, challenging of identifying where to find a spot to house that, staffing to oversee it. On an administrative level, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes preseason work that goes into it. So again, it's not something that we can't do. It just there's a process to follow. So it is something that we've talked about at length.
Okay. I had another question in mind, but now I've forgotten what it was. I'll yield. I'll think of it.
Thank you so much. All right, a couple of follow-ups on Councilor Sterling's on the 4th of July. So does the $50,000 cover the entirety of the overtime costs? That's not firework? That 50,000 does not include the cost of fireworks, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and we don't need to supplement that if that's the full-baked cost? For
Correct. To my knowledge,
personnel?
yes. Yes.
Okay.
Personnel, yes.
Counselor Maglio, if you have a follow-up, go right ahead. Page 27.
Excuse me, sorry. I thought, if I look on here, is the original was 50,000, one line is for fireworks, and one line is,
Activities and parade.
and then is fireworks listed somewhere else?
Not in a budget that I oversee.
Somewhere else in DPW?
No, I believe the fireworks were funded by is it Braintree Committee? Yeah.
There's a
Yeah, I
independent.
think the last 2 years, right, the Beld, the committee did it, and then
July
Beld,
committee.
yeah, and then there was donations from groups like Beld and things like that.
To the committee,
To the
but
committee,
not to the town.
not to the town, no.
So this 50, then, okay, so we're still talking about the same 50. Okay, all right.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, thank you. All right.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I remembered what I wanted to ask. Okay. We have the Center for the Arts. Where does that fall in this budget?
There is, it's a revolving account that is, for administrative purposes, any rentals or any activities that happen there, just go through our normal recreation revolving account because they're so few and far between. So it's not in the general fund budget. It's administered in the revolving side.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so new to this year's budget, I just would say on page 45, we did present a little more information from an all funds perspective. And so it's that spending that Brendan's just noting is captured as sort of as part of a dollar amount. So if you were looking at that chart, you'd see under Public Works, in their special revenue fund / trust, you'd see an amount of $640,000. And the largest component, I think in excess of $300,000 is estimated to be expended from that, the Parks Fund.
That's on page 45, you said?
Yes.
I'm not seeing that.
Yeah, can you, in this book, am I
Yeah,
missing
Yes.
something?
So it says, it's in the middle. Fourth column, yeah. Special Revenue Trust Funds,
Oh.
640.
Oh, that's, okay. Thank you, Counselor.
That is all. Thank you.
Counselor Maglio, did you have anything else?
No.
Okay. Thank you so much, Director Croak. I think you're doing a fabulous job and really appreciate all the work you and your team. It's noticeable in the parks across town. I do want to echo Counselor Maglio's sentiments and questions about basically not allowing non-Braintree residents to use our awesome resources. Towns with beaches figure this out. We can absolutely figure this out, and maybe like both Sunset Lake and Watson Park are within walking distance of public transit. So perhaps it could be, if you're a Braintree resident, you can park in the lot, and if you're not a Braintree resident, take public transit or come on foot another way. We've been asking about a fee for out-of-town folks to use Sunset Lake and Watson Park in the summer for like at least 3 years now, maybe 4. And my frustration is we're getting the same answer over and over again. So if it's like, we're not going to do it, like, I might not think that's the right thing to do, but I certainly can't tell you to do it. But I just think, like, I think it's okay to try a pilot and then adjust. But to just keep doing nothing because it's not just the splash pad or the lake, right? It's then those folks are going to Wave Seafood. They're going to South Braintree Square. They're going to Foley's Ice Cream. We should just never, ever be turning people away. Like, just, from a humanity standpoint, but also from like a revenue standpoint. So it just seems like we can certainly figure out how to do this in a way that we can staff, that's not chaotic. There's a billion models. We can do this. And I just, like, again, 3-4 years in a row, it would be great to get this. If you're like, stop asking, we're not pursuing it, then that's also an answer. So I thank you, Councilor Maglio, for bringing that up. I hope we can figure it out, and thank you for taking the request again.
Sure.
Do other folks have anything else on rec? I did have one follow-up that I didn't get to ask. Sorry, my notes are a little scattered. I believe this is under facilities, the town hall ramp.
Yes.
Can you give us an update on what is happening with the repair and completion of the ADA for the ADA requirements for the town hall ramp?
Sure. To my knowledge, because that was started before I had started, but my understanding on the ramp was that they had appropriated or asked for some funding for the ramp. The quotes came back 2 to 3 times higher than the money that had been asked for to redo the ramp, to completely redo it. Director McGordy at the time made some improvements to the ramp, including some railing improvements, and put some a seal coating on the ramp and fixed the ramp up so that it would not deteriorate any further. But we have not asked for or done anything further on the ramp or to replace that ramp. So, yeah, I don't know that there is I know that it's not in the recent capital budget that we filed to replace that ramp. I think, and maybe if Justin's still here, if he can, the numbers just came in at such a high rate that we couldn't afford to do it at the time.
And that's not a job we can do with our own staff?
No. That would be, the way that I understand the project and what they would be looking for would be to remove that ramp completely and then rebuild that ramp. And that's going to extend a little bit further towards the stairs, and or we're going to have to put a jog in it. It's going to require a substantial amount of work from my understanding of the project.
I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Counselor.
Yeah.
As I understand it, the principal issue with the ramp is the grade. So that if you are in a wheelchair and you are trying to use the ramp,
Yes.
it is too difficult to go up and there's too much danger of backsliding in an unsafe way backwards or losing control and going forwards and causing injury in that respect. So it is a really great concern and an important thing to highlight that we don't have an ADA accessible way for somebody who cannot use stairs to safely access the seat of local government. And if that is something that we just can't do because we don't have the funds for it, that is a strong case for finding revenue.
I will look into and get you a definitive answer on this, but I believe that's what the railing is there. That you can't, the grade changes, the requirements for grade change when you add a railing. So the railing is actually there to assist folks to be able to go up safely and come down safely. So the grade without a railing is less than 5%, I believe, and with the railing, you can actually, you can increase that grade, but I can get you some more details on that. So I don't know that we're out of compliance. I don't know that we're in compliance. I want to be very clear, but I will get you a definitive answer on that. But it does change based on the fact that there is a railing, and that's why we did some handrail work to make sure that that railing was
I think it was also the turning radius for our chair.
Okay.
at the bottom. I will do some research on that for you because I don't want to speak out of turn, but I know that there are some different requirements.
If there were less expensive alternatives to just entirely replacing the ramp, those were not put forward to this body,
Okay.
and they should have been. And that's not on you, but that's a problem.
Well, I think we owe you some answers, right? So let me get some background for you and then and be able to provide you with a better answer than I don't know. So
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely.
Go right ahead.
I have a question for Director Esmond. When money is approved and put into a department budget, so $60,000 in 2022 for ramp repairs or a new ramp, and that's going to be combined with some money in another budget, and then that's whatever that appropriation is, it doesn't happen. Where is the paper trail for that?
So I'm gonna take what you're asking about as probably a capital type of appropriation. So if we authorize via a loan order, let's say a $60,000 per project, if the project is abandoned, if we call it that, so we thought of a project, we proposed it, it was authorized, and for some reason we don't move forward at all, I think one of the things that we have not done historically much of is essentially a formal act further by the council to rescind essentially a budget rescission. Last year, we did a number of them with your support, if you remember. Sometimes that's just, let's call it budget hygiene too. We're just getting rid of old authorizations. So that's sort of like the formal best probably way to sort of show that. Often another something that would happen short of abandoning the project would be that we might start a project and then spend a little bit of funding on it or explore something and then find out maybe a cost assumption is substantially different than what we thought, and we leave essentially the appropriation there. And I think what we have seen in the past is that those appropriations sort of begin to go dormant, for lack of a better way to say it. So we have, the best way to say the paper trail is that we have, I think we have to track those authorizations and do a much more consistent job of reporting against the authorizations that we sought and where we are against, what we've done. I mean, the other thing obviously is that in the capital plan, we're trying to establish, a consistent framework of reporting our projects, and so that you can see Ways and Means and the council and residents can see what we said we were doing, broken out by project, and that it's reported over multiple years, so there's a consistent way to see it. I'm not entirely sure now if I'm answering your question directly as I'm going on, but
Well,
I think
let me just jump in and say what you mentioned about when something is approved and it's budgeted, or it's budgeted and approved, and then it doesn't happen, that there's a process that we can start following. Because I think that there have been a number of years, specific to the ramp, we've approved money every year for the ramp, and if there's a line item that's $200,000 and it includes $60 for the ramp, then at the end of the year, that line item should be $140.
Right.
Right? Or maybe not, but we should have some feedback on that $60 that was going to the ramp didn't. And that's why year after year after year, we approve, it doesn't happen for very legitimate reasons, or not. I don't know. this could apply for anything, but it definitely applies for this particular one, because I remember this was one of my first budget committee meetings, and I don't think it was in the capital budget. I think it was, because it happened here at a Ways and Means budget hearing, public TV, the whole bit, and we spent a lot of time on that appropriation that year for the ramp, and then revisited it every year since.
Yeah. So I think it was I believe it was a CPA authorization. I think, if I'm recalling, this was before my time, but I'm pretty certain it was.
It was before all of your time,
yeah.
Everyone. So.
But if I can just say,
not you, not Sean.
if I could just say, I think when we presented the mayor's capital plan for the 2026 plan, this is one of the things that we do want to find. We want to start moving forward in the fiscal year that we're going to begin to find to start reporting, similar to us providing quarterly updates on the operating budget, is to have a update for the committee on how we're doing against the last published capital plan. Because you will see those variances that will kick out from that, and that will help prompt sort of in a nearer term, okay, what's going on with this? You know, Mike, you had projected $150,000 of expenses this year, and it looks like we're now projecting only, half of that. What happened? And that's going to happen, and I think, some capital, that's especially a common thing in capital with delays and other unanticipated things. But, I think we're that is absolutely an objective to begin in the upcoming fiscal year to similarly, just as we do in the operating budget. I think the only question from my end is what's the right cadence, because it is a lift for all of our departments to make sure that they're able to attend and participate and be able to help explain those things. Many of the folks are here, and so, but that is absolutely, Counselor. I think, one of the objectives I think we wrote in that we want to move forward is to try to have more in-year tracking and reporting on our progress. And I think that's the best way to sort of address those variances that kick up.
Great, thank you.
Anything else for DPW? I think we covered all of the departments. Yep. Okay. I want to say on behalf of the committee and the council, thank you to the entire team. I know you've all worked a full day, and it's 8:30, and sat here for the last 2.5 hours to help us understand better we're all serving the residents. So thank you so much for all you do and for sticking with us this evening. I really appreciate it. All right, with that, I think we can move to table. If there is a motion to table order 26033, 26034, and 26035.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous. All right. Our next budget hearing meeting will be on Monday, May 11th, 6 p.m. You can also watch it on BCAM if you don't want to join us in person. Thank you so much to our BCAM team, Jerry Comack, Dave Maybrook, and Bill Needham, as always, for sticking with us as well. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you, everyone. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.